Hey, I'm Dave Nixon, and today I'm going to walk you through the high capacity model. This is a game plan. I work with this with every single one of my clients. I'm going to walk you and talk you through this so that you can steal everything that I teach you today and implement it into your life straight away. There's also a worksheet that you can download if you want, and it's basically like traffic lights. It's a bit of a heat map across this model so you can get a gauge of like, where am I currently excelling, where am I strong at, and then where are my blind spots, what do I need to give my energy and attention and improvement on to be able to build your capacity. And I'm going to break down like all the models that you need to get started, and also really what capacity is. I'll get to that shortly. I've got some notes here, but I'm just going to rock and roll. Look, we're going to strap in. This might be half an hour. Let's have some fun. So about 10 years ago, I heard this line. I read it actually, and it said, people don't have problems in business. People have personal problems that show up in business. And when I read that, I was like, that's exactly like what I've been trying to communicate for so long. So it is so common for people to have this friction point or difficulty or hesitation or second guessing or overthinking, and they try and put it into a context that it happens at work or it happens in relationships or it happens on the sporting field or whatever. It's like the consistent common denominator is actually the person. And so for so long my work was like, let's work on the person as opposed to the context. It's sort of like, we'll work on the garden and the flower blooms. It's sort of similar type thing. Now the biggest thing though is that, so quick story already, we're getting stuck straight into it. I actually applied for my first job in 20 years last year, which is wild. I didn't tell anyone, I just applied for it. And it's pretty funny because I had to do a resume. I hadn't had a resume since I was 17, and it was totally weird. What's interesting, I mean, I've owned my own fitness training facility, like private training facility, for 15 years. I've done a heap of this coaching work for the last decade. I just have never had to actually apply for jobs. And it was pretty funny. And I applied for this job, and the reason being is that it was like, well, context, I have three things in my life. I have my body of work, all this stuff. I've got my family, and I've got cricket. They're the three things that I love, and that is it. I mean, I love sport on a general level. I've got other interests as well, but that's what my life heavily revolves around. And this was a job with Cricket Australia, being a well-being specialist and part-time and remote. I'm like, that is, boom, I can do that. And it was with match officials. And there was 97 applicants, I learned, right? And I'm the guy that's like, hey, haven't got a resume for 20 years. Here's my resume. Speak to my reference, which is me. And I got down to the last three, so I got told. I went through a couple of interviews. And I have a feeling that I know the exact moment I lost the job. I know the exact moment, and I'm pretty sure it's because the question that they asked me was to do with dealing with a particular match official, one of their members, and a challenge that they were having. And I said, well, at the end of the day, they're a person, so we're gonna deal with the person. They're not a match official. They do match officiating, but they are a human. And I felt the energy shift in that part of the conversation. And I stand by it. If I didn't get the job because of that, that's fine. I'm happy to stand by my word, because this is the difficulty we have, is that we try and go, well, we've got to work on this, and we've got to work on these things outside of you. It's like, no, if you work on the human, if you remove the things that are actually limiting them here and here and here, then they lean into their potential. And I've seen it hundreds of times with all the coaching that I've done, thousands of times on the gym floor, but hundreds of times with this type of coaching. And I want to show you the ways that we do that today. And to do that first is we need to understand the whole picture. Now, these quadrants, this is called integral quadrants. This is by a guy called Ken Wilber. And when I first heard this, they said, everything exists within these four quadrants. And I'm like, that is a big claim. Later on, and a bunch of books behind me that I've read, and a lot of the research I've done, is that yes, everything exists within these four quadrants. Individual, subjective, right? This is I space. And this is how we take a holistic approach, or an integral approach. And we want to do this with the human. This is the I space. This is your worldview, where you have your thoughts. It's the way you see the world. It's your beliefs, values, everything that is subjective and true for you. Then we have collective, so group subjective. This is we. This is culture, right? Community. And then this space here is all the shared values, shared meanings, shared assumptions, or the unspoken assumptions, like the status quo. That is the culture of any particular space, right? And then we have individual objective, and we've got it. And it is like your physical body or behavior. It's if this is your brain, this is your mind, right? They need each other. All four of these quadrants exist, but body and mind, right? And this is also your behavior. It's how you dress, it's how you speak, it's all of that sort of stuff. But it's individual, in this case me, objective, all of the things that are actually measurable and in the tangible world. Then we have collective objective, and this is known as, it's plural, and this is both environment and think systems. And so when we look at any given context, all four of these things are going to exist. What's fascinating is that we will have biases. So someone's going to have a bias with their eye space, or someone's going to bias a culture, or someone's going to bias physical body and what's happening, or someone's going to bias systems and routine. And here's what's fascinating. Let's say someone has a problem with anxiety, and they go, I have anxiety. Very important language, another conversation. But I have anxiety and I need to exercise, or I get anxious and I need to take like medication from which is in between here, right? So go see doctors, medical health plan, not saying you shouldn't do it. And then when I train, what they never ever do is actually deal with how they structure their thinking. So they're actually identifying with their thoughts, and they just try and exercise away their thoughts, and it works for a little while. What you'd want to do is take on a complete perspective. You want to take on an integral perspective when dealing with any form of situation. And we're going to do this with capacity today. But this is crucial because I call this a meta model. It's what all of the other models fit within this space. We have to go, well, hang a sec. How am I thinking? How do I structure my thinking? Why do I value what I value? Where did I learn that? We have to actually unpack the subjective space. And I've spent a large portion the last decade of my career going, how do we ground all of the stuff that's subjective in nature? How can we measure our thinking? How can we measure culture? How do we adjust it? How can we build frameworks for it so we can do it deliberately as opposed to just do it by accident, or it just is what it is, or that's how I've always been? That sort of rubbish. It's not the case. You are not stuck. You are not static. You are a dynamic being. You can absolutely fundamentally change the way that you think and the community that you're around and influence the world from that. So we go, how is the person thinking and why do they think that way? Is it serving you? Is it not serving you? Really simple. And then we like, who are the people you're spending your time with? Like, what are the cultures you're around? What are the communities? Communities is common unity, and communication will go into the same concept of like communities that communicate are going to be far greater to understand, is this healthy and positive for me? Or is this something that I need to start looking at changing what my support group looks like and how I'm contributing in that space as well? Then we're like, what are you doing with your body? So how are you thinking? Who are you with? What's your actual behavior in your body? Like, what are you doing there? What are you eating? How are you sleeping? And then we look at like, what are the actual systems, routines, and the environment that you're in? And now we can take an integral approach to anxiety. Anxiety is just the example. You can plug anything into this. And the reason, I'm doing like a 101.1 on this. When it comes to the quadrants, there's hours and hours of content that I have on this type of work and how it relates to coaching, to relationships, to building a business. All of it sits within these four quadrants, and it's phenomenal. I work with organizations to help integrate it, that's pretty funny, into their systems so that they can have an integral perspective when they're working with onboarding teams or when they're working at marketing, doesn't matter. So this here is crucial. We want to take an integral approach when we look at any problem, and we want to make sure we're addressing it from every single quadrant. The problem is that people have a strong quadrant, maybe they're really good here, and so if there's a problem here, they don't deal with it there, they deal with it here, and then it keeps coming back. You want to deal with it through all four quadrants, and you'll be able to move on. So this will come back. I'll mention this a little bit throughout the session today, but this is something that's going to be crucial. Once again, his name's Ken Wilber. He developed integral theory. There's a bunch of work on him. You can look it up. I've got a bit of stuff on him as well, but that's a bit of an introduction. We want to think of this again, but people don't have problems in business out here. People have personal problems that show up in business, and we want to be able to deal and address with the actual human, the person. That's where change occurs, and that's what I'm going to unpack for you today. The next question that's really important is like, what is capacity? And so in its simple form, capacity is your threshold for responsibility and pressure. And I'm going to give you an example. There's two types of capacity, two types of mindsets when it comes to capacity. This is person one, this is person two. And these people have, let's say, the same level of, let's call this pressure, and responsibilities, right? Up here. And these are the days of the week. Let's just say that's that many. And so each person one and person two, have the exact same level of pressure and responsibilities within their life. The difference is going to be their mindset and how they deal with it. So all that sort of first and the eye space and so forth that I just explained. Now, what's fascinating here is that this person has a fixed, let's call it a fixed mindset. It's actually called a salary mindset. right? They get paid a certain amount of capacity, a certain amount of threshold every single week, and that's what it is. That's their threshold. They don't have any more mental, physical, emotional threshold than that. And because of that, if anything goes over that threshold, then they become broke. They start to break down. They start to retreat. And the way that does that is that even though we've got a little gap here where we've got a gap for being able to deal with pressure and responsibility, is that this person's just busy taking on other people's shit, right? It could be, like, I'm not talking around children. If you've got young children, that sits within this pressure and responsibility. I'm talking this could be even the TV, let alone people that you work with, your neighbors, family members that are just dragging stuff on, stuff that's not yours that you decide to carry. And it's funny because you carry it, the people that don't want to carry it keep coming back to you, and that's why you're getting this. And this is all stress. Anything that goes above your capacity is going to be stress. This is good stress. I'm going to call it pressure. After that, it's called stress. So for the sake of the rest of the video. So what's important here is that person number 2, they don't take on unnecessary stress or tension. They let other people, it's called healthy responsibility. This person's over-responsible, right? Now, this person that's over-responsible is constantly taking on all these other people's shit. People do it at work. Maybe it's how they got started, but now it's actually starting to wear them down. They do it with their family members. And one of the challenges is that some people even get value out of it. So there's this bind of like, yeah, but I get self-worth out of doing so. But you're weakening the people around you, including yourself. And so this person has a revenue mindset. And the way this works is that they go, well, my capacity isn't fixed. I can improve my mind, body, emotional capacity, my threshold, and I'm not going to take on other people's shit. And so because they learn how to have, yes, boundaries, but also understand themselves on a greater level, this gap here is performance, right? This is profit if you were to think about it from a revenue standpoint. And with profit, you get to do way more cool shit and you can weather storms. This person can't do way more cool shit and they can't weather storms. And so we want to, if you take anything from this video, if you stopped it now and that's all you watched, you want to be able to shift from a salary mindset to a revenue mindset so you can increase your threshold for pressure and responsibility, your capacity. You be very clear on what's your pressure responsibility. Think of it like fixed and non-fixed costs, so to speak. So you can perform. You've got this space, and in this space is where you can be present. It's where you can access states of flow. It's here. If you're past your threshold, you can't do it. You feel like you're drowning. And so we want to take people from this to this so that they can actually live the life they're living instead of surviving the life that you can call it living, but not quite. So you've got 2 types, salary, revenue. Idea here is we move you from salary to revenue so you can increase your capacity, increase your mind, body, emotional threshold, remove unnecessary stress, other people's shit, teach you how to do that because some people have been so used to actually carrying it that they've trained everyone around them to carry it and also train themselves to carry it. Move that on so you can start to actually perform to the level that you know you're capable of. There's 3 main pillars and then one more thing that I want to teach you today. So to build capacity and be able to do the shit you want to do, right? To be able to go from scattered and hesitant, maybe second guessing yourself, to being clear, calm, and confident, there's 3 pillars that you want to master. And some people master 1 or 2 of these almost by accident, but they commonly struggle with a third. Not always the same third, it can be a bit different. But when you nail these 3 pillars and then you apply the last one, it's the 4th one, which is practice, then that's where you consistently build capacity, like week on week on week, month on month on month. It's like continually having like record profit months if you were to think of it like a business perspective. But there's a couple of old mindsets and new mindsets that I want to share with you. And we need to make this distinction early on because it'll be the difference between whether you keep carrying other people's shit and keep weighing yourself down and keep weakening everyone around you, including yourself, or if you actually lean into your potential, increase your capacity, and really start to continue to enjoy your life doing epic shit as opposed to waiting for people to give you permission, waiting for things to slow down. Have you been doing that? I did for a long time. Shit never slowed down. I had to learn how to speed up. It's pretty funny. So we've got purpose, you've got presence. I'm going to talk about this a fair bit today. And then you've got physiology. These are the 3 pillars. And then underneath that, you've got practice, your ability to actually execute on those 3 pillars, right? So they're the 3 pillars. And there's a couple of old mindsets here that we want to move away from. The thing with purpose is that commonly, if you've ever had this before, it's like we look at like goal setting, they see it as like this static chore, this chore that I have to do once a year. It feels corporate-y. I hated this, right? So I work massively with unconventional thinkers because my brain doesn't, I struggled at school. I struggled to follow things like SMART goals. I was like, this is gross. It is so heady. Maybe for like people that love spreadsheets and that kind of type of thinking, that's great. Maybe it works for you guys. And that's cool. No worries at all. It just didn't work for me. I felt like it was missing something and it felt really static, right? This is the concept here. It's static. I actually developed a concept called DENT goals, which talks you through not just what you want to achieve, it reverse engineers it, and it right down to the point of like, how do you need to show up every single day to be the kind of person to do those weekly habits, to meet those quarterly campaigns, to live the life that you want to live in 12 months time. Like, it breaks it right down there, and it's called DENT goals. And that's what I teach. And I teach goal setting. It's actually your vision. Goal setting is a part of it. It's a dynamic document, right? You're a dynamic being. What was a goal for you probably even weeks ago, let alone years ago, it's probably evolved. Now, when we treat it like static, it's like, I'm not saying always change the plan. I'm saying the plan should always adapt based upon what's crucial and important to you at your stage of life. You're a dynamic being. Your purpose needs to be dynamic. It needs to continue to learn how to adjust. We don't treat, for example, goal setting as this yearly chore. We treat it like basically like a quarterly skill that you develop, and you get better and better and better. I've done this for years with people. You get better and better and better at refining it and making it clearer and cutting to the core of what's important, so you can be absolutely clear on your purpose. When you're clear on your purpose, your energy levels go through the roof. Your sleeping doesn't even change. Maybe even your nutrition doesn't change. It usually does, because you start to align it more with what's actually important to you. And I apologize for any car noises. I'm next to mechanics. But the key thing there is that you get this like life source, this energy that comes from something that's meaningful to you, as opposed to people that are low on purpose, which is really made up, I'll show you later on with the model, but vision, mission, story, right? Vision, what am I doing in the future? Mission, what am I doing right now? Story, what am I coming from? And so that's crucial. We move from static to dynamic. When it looks at like presence, people try and be present, right? It's like they're trying to do something, but I'm talking about also like how you show up. And so a lot of the time, some people struggle with going, I'm a coach, like as an example. I'm not a coach, I'm a Dave. I mean, that's just a sound my face make, that means me, but I'm a me, I'm a Dave. And coaching's something I do. And what happens is that a lot of the time, people try to associate their presence, either their presence in a room or being present, with what they do. But that's not who you are. That is what you do. And this is really, really important, a crucial distinction. If I get athletes and they get injured and they've associated themselves and their presence with what they did, their identity with what they did, they fall apart. It's like, no. An athlete, like playing cricket or football or whatever, that's something that you do, but you're an ex-person, whatever your name is. And so we need to be able to, when we understand our presence, understand that we've got a core presence as a human being that we were born with. And these are things that we do. Really still important. Like, I love being able to produce videos and coach and deliver and do all of that sort of stuff, but it's not who I am. And so when we look at your presence, it's moving on from this mask, which is actually what persona means. It's derived from the Greek word, which means the mask we wear at the drama. So move on from persona into a true presence, which means that we can start to really show up how we're designed to, based also on our vision and our purpose. So that's how it pieces together, moving from this presence of something that you do to who you are. What's interesting with our physiology, and especially if you spend any time with like people like Huberman, probably not in person, but or a bunch of other individuals, doesn't matter who they are, maybe hacks, not them themselves, but sort of tips and hacks around how to improve your physiology. I'm talking like your physical body, your nervous system, your health, all of that sort of stuff. And what happens is that they're so used to being like, what's the best protocol for this? Like, what protocol should I follow? And what I found, both with myself, and I've only worked with about 10,000 people over the last 2 decades within their well-being and performance space, protocols are rigid. We need flexibility. We don't need a protocol approach. We need a principle approach. A principle approach allows us to pick the guiding and operating principles that are relevant for us in our stage of life, and they dictate the protocols that we use. Otherwise, I get a room full of 20 people, maybe I'm not doing this, but I'm running a challenge and I'm like, here are all the protocols you need to follow. Here's your diet, here's this. It's like, man, that guy works 20 minutes further away than that guy and has 3 kids. That guy's got 2 kids. And then on top of that person's divorced. They've got a step parents. They actually got kid on, kid off. That person, these protocols, they need to be completely different because they've got different lives. And so their principles, and they need to be implicit in actually what's relevant for their principles for their life, allows them to actually choose and dictate what protocols they need to have. So we need to move from a protocol approach, which is rigid, which is why people fall off the bandwagon, to having a principle approach to understanding our nervous system, our breath, our physical body, our performance, our work, rest, and play. And so we want to move from protocol to principle. When it comes to practice, too often, I need to see instant results. Now, seeing momentum straight away is important. I get that. But seeing instant results is what people are after, or I end up losing motivation. If you need motivation, don't worry about it. I know that's bad advice. Sounds like it's not. It's fantastic advice. We want to move from a mindset of from instant to intergenerational. Every single person that I've looked up to and seen crush their life, health, fitness, business, had this. If they were relying on instant, they fell apart. I did a TED talk on habits for intergenerational health. And what I presented there was 2 types of people that I've worked with, group 1 and group 2. What I later told them was group 1 is slaves, right? You need to tell me what to do, tell me what to eat, push me through a workout, call me when I don't show up. And if I get results, it's codependent. Whereas this other person's like, I'm not paying you to tell me what to do. I'm paying you to teach me what to do. They weren't codependent. They weren't after instant results. They were interdependent, and they were after intergenerational results. And what I've seen from spending 2 decades in the well-being and performance space was crazy differences between those 2 types of people. So we want to move purpose from static to dynamic, our presence from something that we do to actually who we are, our physiology from protocol approach to a principle approach, and then our practice from an instant results perspective to intergenerational momentum. That's the approach. If we take on that approach, that will change everything when it comes to capacity, our well-being, and our impact. Not just that, it's like our ability to do epic shit and enjoy our life doing it. So a big part of being successful with improving our capacity is actually being present. And how does one be present? Well, commonly people try and be more present. Doesn't work like that. It's like being more pregnant. It's like you're pregnant or you're not pregnant. The same is for presence. And so people try and be more of it. The present moment is always here. And it's actually where life is lived. The future is only reserved for those that can live in the present, right? We still need to be able to access the future, to be able to have a vision. We still need to be able to access the past, to learn from our lessons and understand where we came from. Yet our default really should be in this present moment. And it's what people aspire to, which is funny because it means they never get there. As long as you want something, you never have it. So this is what I call the presence pressure paradox. And what we end up having here is at the top line here, we've got pressure. And on the bottom line, we have presence. Now, what's fascinating, let's go back to that person, the person 1, person 2, they both had the same amount of pressure. Now, what's interesting is that person 1 is paying attention to all the pressure, because what dictates this more than anything, this is a thought bubble, I know it's terrible, I thought I'd get better at drawing them, but is what we pay attention to and the meaning structures that we make. So we've got person 1 that's just like focused on the pressure and they struggle to be present, they struggle to actually really enjoy their life. When we've got person number 2 who has so much more focus on being present, they've got the same amount of pressure, but it's so much easier. They can carry it lighter. They deal with things when they come. They can still plan around them deliberately and consciously, but they're not constantly concerned about the future, worried about the future, and then, remunerating, probably should be ruminating on missed chances from the past. And so we have this concept here, and these 2 ends are really, really important, because at this end, we can perform, right? That's it, F, terrible F. We can perform at this end. We can be present. We can step into our potential. At this end, we're just a passenger in our life. That's it. It's like the same amount of pressure that you will already carry. If you focus on your pressure, you're going to be a passenger. You're like a victim to it at all times. If you can learn how to be present, because you've got a stillness or a static presence, you've got a dynamic presence. Your static presence is your ability to be present in a conversation, just sit where you are and be absolutely comfortable and okay with where you are and actually living your life. Or you've got a dynamic presence, which is states of flow. It's actually accessing presence in movement, and that's states of flow. And so that person here has access to that. This person gets fuck all of it. They don't get any of it, right? They're constantly just reactive. This person's constantly preactive. So you've got a choice with how you pay your attention. Same amount of pressure. Every single high performer, high achiever is a high pressure person that learns how to build their capacity and be present so that they can literally live their life and enjoy it while still doing epic shit. So I know I've said it a few times, but it's like, that's exactly why I get up in the morning to help people do that sort of stuff. And I love it. And that's why I teach it. All right. Should we get into the nuts and bolts, the process of it all? Let's do it. So as I mentioned before, there's a worksheet you can download in the details of this. It's like a bit of a heat map. It is a traffic light questionnaire. And so it means that as you go through and understand this model, you can actually fill it out yourself. It's a bit of a self-check questionnaire. And it just means that you can go, well, where am I most weak and need to work on? And where am I currently strong and maybe don't need to keep doubling down on? So smack bang in the middle, we have high capacity human, high capacity professional, high capacity leader. It's all the same thing, but remember, we're going and working on the human here. People don't have problems in business. They have personal problems that show up in business. And from here, we've got kind of the 3 pillars that I spoke about before. Three problems, 3 solutions. I'm going to do my best. I've got a bit of room here. And so then we've got the 3 pillars, and there, I said them before, this one over here, this is going to be your purpose, so your vision, which I'll unpack today, obviously. And then we've got presence over here. It says presence, just go along, and then physiology down here. This is really important. We nail these 3 things, you're in a completely different universe with how you breathe, perform, show up, the results you get in life. I promise you, I've seen it hundreds of times. It's something that I had to unpack myself. It's why I share it so freely. And so there's a couple of things here, right? This person here might be feeling a bit scattered, maybe even a little bit low energy. They struggle to actually have like their drive, emotional drive. They're kind of just chipping away, but it's kind of really wearing thin of them. Like it happens and it changes throughout life as well, different stages of the life. And so this one here, we want to be able to move from being sort of scattered to having clear vision. Remember, there we go. Clear vision, calm mind, confident body. And those 3 pillars together, you're going to be fucking unstoppable. So we go from that space there, but there's 3 main things, and there's kind of different things you can do with it, but there's 3 main things that you want to make sure that you can nail and get clear and detailed on when it comes to making sure you've got a clear vision. That is, I've already mentioned it before, but your vision, your mission, and your story. Now, your vision is about your future. I've already talked about DENT goals. That's a framework I recommend. It's the stuff that I coach people on again and again and again and again. But your vision is like, where am I going? How can I detail that out? And it's crucial that we put all these 3 things together. So not only are we looking at this, what's my future look like? And how do I need to show up, which is going to happen over here, in order to be the person that lives that vision? We're also going like, what's my mission? What's now? Future, now, what am I doing right now that's moving me towards that vision? And then story. And story is understanding your past and unpacking it. And when you can do future, present, past, you've got this like almost like a bow and arrow, right? That just drives you forward every single day. The problem is that people might get clear on one, or they keep ruminating on the past, or they keep their head in the vision, but they don't have any energy, right? This is the engine that drives you forward. It's understanding and really getting clear on all these 3 that move you from scattered to having a clear vision, which unlocks this type of energy that you just like, you can't get from sleep, you can't get from food, illicit drugs, whatever. It is completely different. It's also why like purpose is crucial, because you see when people start to have a family, and it's just like, I think there's research like most millionaires have children, and the reason being is like it's what drives them forward. They absolutely start to want to provide. I'm not saying that's the end goal for every single person, but what I'm getting at there is that when there is a purpose for you, you'll drive yourself forward massively. But people sometimes struggle. It doesn't matter how good they are at presence and how good they are at physiology. If you don't know where you're going, what you're doing, and where you came from, you're going to stay scattered and you'll never live to your potential. I got a client. His name's Jacko. I love him. He's a phenomenal guy. Now, I've worked with him on two ends. This guy's like CEO. I think he's got like 80 staff, doing tens of mil. And I work with him at two ends of the scale. The first end of the scale was like, he was getting squeezed. He's like, how do I break this down? And how do I have a clear vision through this process? And the work that we've done together, I remember him saying something that really, really stuck with him, was that when you ask God, religious or not, when you ask God for strength, he gives you weights. It's like, I just got to do these weights. This is what I'm doing right now. And so when he had like really little capacity, we worked together to really increase that and make sure he wasn't taking on unnecessary shit. And then on the other side of it, coming out the other end, his capacity, his threshold was huge. And he's like, I feel like I'm wasting this gap now. He's like, I need to revisit this sort of stuff. So we got back in on the other end of the scale, and we're able to really refine and redefine what his vision is and where he's going and why it was important and what he needed to do. And then straight away he's back up to, pushing that potential again. I love this type of person. He wasn't interested in resting on his laurels. He wanted to, on both ends, go, how do I make this lighter and get through this as best I can and provide as best I can? On the other end, it's like, okay, I'm ready to crank this up again because I've got this threshold that I've grown into, but I don't have the pressure and responsibilities. How do I crank that back up again? Phenomenal guy. I love Jacko. And the process that we went through, I already mentioned a few times, was this dent, right? And we go, what's your daily default? How do you need to show up every single day? That's in? Yes. What do you need to do every single week? What are your 90-day campaigns? And then if you were to achieve what you wanted to achieve in 12 months' time, what would you call this year, right? If you were start of the calendar year and you looked ahead and you achieved everything you wanted to achieve, what would you give that name? Chapter? Is it an era, right? What would you call that? Now, what's fascinating here is that we actually reverse engineer this. Is like, if you achieve everything you want to achieve in 12 months, what would you call that year? What do you reverse engineer? What do you need to be done in 9 months' time, 6 months' time, 3 months' time to make sure you're on track with that? Given where you need to be in 3 months' time, what do you need to get done every single week? Given what you need to get done every single week, who do you need to be and show up every single day to be the kind of person to do those things every single week, to achieve those things in the 90 days, to make sure that you've actually achieved those things at the end of the year? It's a really comprehensive approach. I know I just like rap battled through that, but that's the framework that we use again and again and again. And it's just like a 360-degree approach that I love, that we've refined and nailed again and again and again. And Jacko absolutely crushed it. And he's still crushing it. Love that. We've got presence. What's happening here? What? Overthinking, right? What else? It could be overwhelm, like second guessing yourself, feeling like you're kind of not being authentic. Like, all that's happening here. It all happens in this pillar. And the goal is like, I just want to have a calm, clear mind. That's the outcome. That's not necessarily like what we focus on. That's what happens. Sort of like we lose fat when we focus on eating well and moving better. This happens when we focus on going, well, given my vision, my identity, like, who do I need to be in order to be the person that lives my vision normally on an everyday Tuesday? And the reason why I put it that way is that your goals need to feel normal to your nervous system. They need to feel natural and normal. You cannot have goals that don't feel healthy, natural, normal to your nervous system, or you will never achieve them. But you need to identify, based on my vision, how do I need to show up every single day? What is my identity? That's number one. Number two, I'm going to call it presence. That's a P on an angle. I'm going to do that again. That was terrible. Let's do that again. Let's make a pretty P. There you go. That's a good one. Presence. You could call it essence. I call it presence as in personality integrated into essence, but this is your ability to be present. Who do I need to show up as to interact with the world, to be able to live the life that I want? And then how do I be present? This stillness component, the static component that I talked about. And then we have flow. How do I integrate those two things into action, into my every single day thing, the thing that I'm doing right now, that I'm able to just communicate and talk and present and do that sort of stuff, and I love, that feels like play but looks like work. That you have a version of that. How do you access that more often? How do you leverage all 5 of the things that came before it to be able to do that, right? And then when you have this aligned, this is the outcome. Of course you can't, because you can just show up as you. It goes back to the presence that I spoke about. You're not your job title or trying to be something or putting on a mask. You're just simply who you are. And then this is the outcome that happens. One of my clients that I've worked with for somewhat nearly a decade, she started out as a hockey player. She plays WNRL. Her name's Claudia. She's amazing. She's awesome. She's also like a veterinarian doctor, like just finishing her studies. And when she debuted for the West Tigers, it was last year, she had some strapping tape on her wrist, and it said, "Surfer, lean in." And this is some of the work we did. I actually did a podcast. It's a podcast called Mood Prep, and I did an episode called The Surfer. And what's funny, both her and this other guy that I worked with, a guy called Mackenzie Skapsky, who debuted for the New York Rangers in the NHL, both aligned and loved this podcast, and they didn't know each other, and around the same time they spoke to me about it and used it for their betterment in the sport. Now, the reason why she had that is that this analogy of the surfer is like, you can't control the waves, you can't control the other surfers, you can't control the weather, you can't control all of these things outside of your control, right? Here's you. There's only 4 things in your control. 2 things internally, 2 things, that's a 3, externally. The first thing is your thoughts. People go, I can't control my thoughts. I'm like, no, you can't, but you can control what you choose to be true, what you deem to be true. The next thing is your feelings. I can't control my emotions. No, you can't control your emotions, but you get to choose how you code those emotions. So your thoughts and your feelings, you have influence, choice, capacity to adjust as you need to. That's how otherwise you're just at victim. You're at mercy to whatever thoughts come in, and you identify as those thoughts. You're not your thoughts. If you can think it, hear it, smell it, taste it, feel it, you're not it. If you can do any of those things, you're the thing experiencing those things. You are not those things. So thoughts, feelings, and then speech and behavior. Anything that exists outside of these 4 things is no longer in your control. You're the surfer, you're not the wave. And if you're on a wave thinking about a future wave, you'll crash. If you're on a wave thinking about the waves you missed, you'll crash. You just have to surf and lean in. And like, she's the epitome of someone that absolutely nailed that. I fucking love Claudia. She's a legend. And I love working with people like that, for the reason being is that they get it, they do the work, and then they get the benefits. Okay, the last pillar. What are we going to put here? What is it? Doubt? Self-doubt? Hesitation? Right? This idea, especially like, most people I work with are kind of like 30 and over. Most of the people. Doesn't matter. You can work with people underneath. There's still doubt. There's still hesitation. But there ends up being this like, oh, I'm just going to age, or I'm going to lose my edge, or that kind of stuff. It's not the case. It adapts. It changes. And there's a maturation when it comes to understanding your physiology. If you're constantly, like I mentioned before around slaves and students, if you're constantly just being told what to do, you're never actually taught about your body. You're just being like letting an authority tell you what to do as if you're a fucking 7-year-old. Grow out of that bullshit, please, for the sake of God. And everyone, just learn about your body, learn about your physiology so you can master it, how you're physically showing up regardless of the scenario and the situation. Really, really important. And when you do that, I used to call this a capable body, which is true. You want a capable body, but your confidence is crucial. And what I mean by confidence isn't like I can walk confidently because of how I look. It's like I can confide in my body. I'm confident that my body has a capacity to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I call it the anywhere, anytime athlete. And it's about really understanding, yes, 3 things, as you can tell by now. We've got work, rest, play. But really what it is being able to regulate your nervous system, understand how your breathing impacts everything, understand where your attention is, how to be in your body, it's kinesthetic intelligence, all of this, right? Work, rest, and play. And when you can do that, you've got, let's look at the whole model for a second. You've got your vision, you've got your purpose, right? Where you're going, where you're coming from, and what you're doing every single day to get there. You've got everything you need to be able to build a calm mind as a default. You're not trying to, you don't have to go, I have to have none of that. That's just who you are every single day. And now we're bringing your body into it, and all of a sudden you've got this calm, capable, confident body that's ready for whatever comes its way. Anywhere, anytime athlete. And we do that by work, which is your output, rest, which is your input, and then play, which is this engagement. We want to keep our body young. We learn more about our body, and I call it competitive play. Some version, some form of that. I have a client that I work with, and she's phenomenal. I mean, all my clients, I love them all. She's a dietitian from like a decade, and tech company, has an exceptional resume. And she came to one of the immersions. We were on like a 3-day, 2-night immersion, and in that container. And she's a little bit skeptical around some of the stuff, which I think is exceptionally healthy. We did a bit of breath work. We don't just do a bit of breath work. We teach people how the breath and the way they think and the way that they show up all interrelate, basically. It's really quite phenomenal. But the reason why I share that with you is that after the immersion, nothing really changed. Nothing really happened. 6 months later, I get a text message and she's like, I just realized I have not had an anxiety attack since the immersion. Just did not realize that I have not had one. And what happened, she's like, I realized that every single time I would go that way, I had all the tools, and this is great, had all the tools to be able to take care of myself and avoid it in the first place with the way that she structured her thinking. But what we taught her wasn't just, yes, you breathe to down-regulate your nervous system. It's called regulating your nervous system. You need to learn how to regulate up and regulate down accordingly. Now, this is the phylogenetic nervous system. It was taught to me by a guy called Julian Pinau and Richard Aceves from StrongFit at the time. A lot of Stephen Porges' work with polyvagal theory, and another lady called I know these are all names, but you can look them up. Magdalena Weinstein had an influence on this as well. And then I had other iterations which have been phenomenal. But I'm going to teach it to you really quickly. What this all means, that this is, I'm going to call this space the friendly space, right? This is where people feel socially engaged. I've had people call it flow, but I don't call that flow, I call something else. Over here is fight, then we've got flight, and then we've got freeze. And this is what's called the parasympathetic, and this is called the sympathetic. Big words, but what I'm getting at, you can't see the S, but that's fine, it's there. What I'm getting at here is that we lean into certain things for many different reasons, but this is too simplistic. I want to teach you something way, way, way clearer and better for you. This y-axis, this is toward, and this is away. Over here is still, and over here is movement. And what happens is that we're either moving towards something, so we're going towards a fight, we're moving away from something, we're sort of moving, we're fleeing, or we're still away, which is freezing, it's also where we go to sleep, and then still towards, which is this socially engaged space. And when we can understand this and how our breath down-regulates or up-regulates as necessary, and then also the meaning structures that we make. I mean, I remember having, at one of our retreats, we found a snake, and 2 ladies responded to it completely different. It's like, hang on a sec, it's the same stimulus. Why aren't we seeing the same thing in their nervous systems? And 2 of them had completely different meaning structures around a snake. And so the way that we think and the way that we breathe and the way that we show up and how connected we are to our body plays a massive role with how we can deal with stress in the moment, especially if it's unknown and unknowable stress. And so when we look at this again, right? You've got a clear vision, you've got a calm mind, you've got a confident body, and we can use all of this to be able to build that out. This is how we build capacity that is intergenerational, not just instant. We can build momentum straight away, but we can make changes because not just our children, not just our nieces and nephews, but every single person that we interact with plays a key role in how we show up and vice versa. And so we have I believe, a duty, a responsibility to the best work that we can ever do is to work on ourselves, because that's what we pass down. That's a thorough belief of mine, and this is my life's work up to this point to be able to teach this. I mentioned at the start, there's like a worksheet you can download. It'll take you through questions for all of these pillars, so you can actually get a measurement of like, okay, where's my strong points, and where do I need to work on, and where am I kind of lacking a little bit, or where am I cruising? Like, what are my hot spots, right? It's a heat map. And by doing that, you can either grab that and off you go, and you've got enough information here to be able to go do it yourself. And of course, once again, if you want to know how to work with me, there's details below. You can either if you're like, cool, this shit's hot, I love it, I've done my heat map, I want to know how to like deal with this. You can book in you don't have to, but you can book in a triage call. I say you don't have to as in the sense of like, there's so many different ways that you can unpack this. And if you want to know how we can work together to be able to get you there faster, then you can, by all means, there's basically like an offer doc that you can just opt in below. You can click in and I'll just send you how my 12-week programs work and how they work one-on-one and then on groups as well, and where you will start and where you'll get to. Alternatively, if you're like, you've done your heat map, you've done a fair bit of research, and you're like, I want to know, it's kind of like a hospital, right? You walk in and it's triage, and you're like, is it really bad? Do I need to see something straight away? Do I need help with this straight away? Or can I just go off and go do some things and take care of myself, take a couple of, metaphorical Panadol and off I go? Then you can book a triage call. Either way, it's me that does all this stuff. I teach all this stuff because I love this stuff. And so regardless, you should have now, especially with your heat map, your traffic lights, enough information to go away and be able to like, how do I increase my capacity? How do I remove unnecessary stress? And how do I lean into this version of me that lives free and fully and does more of what I love more often? Like at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you a quick story on this. I know I've told you heaps of stories and it's probably dragged on a little bit, but today I went to, this is why this shit's important. I found out that one of my old clients passed away. He's 42, aggressive brain cancer. And I was letting the community know, I have a training facility here in Canberra, letting my community know, and I was looking up his name in my emails. I'm like, where was he a client? What years? Anyway, I found an email that I sent myself for some notes to go reach out to a couple of clients because I can't recall specifically why, but I had to reach out to them. It was him and 2 other guys. And I looked at those names. I'm like, 2 of those guys are dead. One, aggressive brain cancer, 1 suicide, and the other one went through a horrific divorce where he had to be talked off the ledge. Like all of these guys I'm 37, these guys are 10 years or less older than me. You have a duty to lean into your potential in the face of all of the stresses and concerns and unknowings that you have in front of you. And you can do it. It's just knowing what are the frameworks I have to follow. And so that's why I do what I do, right? That's why. Because you don't want to get to the end with your unlived potential. Sorry to get philosophical. It's what's important to me. It's what I love to do. So yes, that's me done. I'm out. I can keep talking as you can tell, but I'm going to finish up there. You've got everything you need. If you want to check me out, go below, say hello. Otherwise I'm done. I'm out. Until next time. Peace and pizza. I'll see you soon.